Welcome. I would like to acknowledge that UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We would also like to acknowledge that you're joining us today from many places, near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. When you're writing your resume, do you write brief descriptions or specific details about your experience? Most people try to keep their resume brief, but they lose key information that helps an employer understand your abilities and the quality of your work. So how do you keep the right amount of detail without writing too much? What does an employer really value when they read someone's resume? To write a more effective resume, you need to do more than present a list of your experiences. You need to write with a purpose. Your resume has a specific purpose to convince an employer that you can do a specific job. Each resume has its own purpose because it is written for a specific audience, each unique employer. With this in mind, you can tailor the descriptions of your experiences in a way that highlights the particular skills and knowledge that will be most relevant to this particular employer who is hiring for this specific job. Most resumes list experiences like academic projects or courses, volunteering, work or personal experiences, and include bullet points to describe the specific tasks or knowledge gained as part of that role. In each bullet point, people summarize their experiences by using a simple verb and task format. Let's walk through an example together. A barista at a coffee shop. Here are some of the bullet points to describe this role. Notice there are two verbs used in the first point. Both preparation and service skills are important parts of this task you would like an employer to know about. Adding a few simple descriptors about how you completed the task tells an employer more about you and your skills. For example, did you carry it out accurately, efficiently, thoroughly, or in a friendly and professional manner? While you want your resume to be concise, you also want to provide enough detail to convince them that you have the skills and knowledge they need. Including specific details provides more proof of what you claim. For example, take note of some of the extra detail I can add to my description of a barista's role. It is a balancing act to make the descriptions of your experiences concise but detailed enough to create confidence. That balance will get easier to find as you gain more experiences writing resumes and reviewing samples from other people. As a general guideline to start, having bullet points that take up 1 to 2 lines on your resume will generally be pretty concise. If they go to 3 lines, you might just double check to make sure the bullet points are not overly wordy or could be written more simply. Or, do any of the bullet points actually include 2 important skills in a single bullet point that might be worth separating out? Adding just a few of these extra details to a typical statement that is a verb and a task can increase an employer's confidence in your abilities and your experiences. This extra detail may already help an employer feel confident in your abilities. And accomplishment statements help you stand out even more by adding a third element to your descriptions. An accomplishment statement will still include elements of a typical statement that we have already talked about, a verb and a task, but it will also include information about the result of these tasks. Sometimes you may have numerical results of a task that you can share with an employer. For example, you increased sales by 5%. But sometimes you may have descriptive or qualitative results. For example, you may have increased customer satisfaction or developed community awareness by completing a particular task. These are also likely very relevant and important results that can help an employer feel confident in your abilities that you can do the task well. If you're having trouble identifying some results of a task, perhaps you might reflect on why that task was important to the job. How would you know if you had done it well? If you're training somebody to do that job, what would you tell them was the goal? Using our barista example again, let's create some accomplishment statements together. When I consider the first bullet point, I ask myself, What is the goal of this task? If I was training somebody to do this task well, what would I tell them is important to keep in mind? I can also ask myself, what is the result of preparing and serving beverages to customers if I'm doing a good job at it? Pro tip: there may be multiple results you can think of for a single task. You can choose which result to highlight depending on what you think will be most relevant to the employer. You can also mention more than one result in a bullet point if you keep them concisely worded. Considering the previous example, how might we shift our results to tailor them for different employers and roles? If I was applying for another position in the food service industry, the bullet point about work safe regulations would probably be very relevant, and employers would probably be happy to see that I already have that experience. But what if I were applying for a role where this cleaning knowledge wasn't applicable? If I were applying for a position as a crisis line volunteer and there were no cleaning duties involved. When I look at the responsibilities section of the posting or talk to somebody who has done this role before, it can help me to identify what results might be most transferable from my experience as a barista. There can be multiple results that come from a particular task. You can choose what you want to highlight depending on what you're applying for. What is the result of this task that might be more relevant to this particular employer or role? What else is a positive result of doing this cleaning? This task is not only important for work safe regulations, but also because it creates a comfortable and welcoming environment that will encourage people to visit and stay for a while. This result might be more applicable to a crisis line volunteer, as it's important to create a setting where people feel comfortable and speak with me. Notice the way to write the bullet point with this new result in mind. When you start your application, carefully review the responsibilities section as well as the skills section of a job or volunteer posting, or talk to somebody in your network who has done this type of role before. Ideally, this will help you get a clear idea of what skills or knowledge might be relevant to this role. Next, think of any experiences that might have helped you to develop some of those skills and knowledge. Now, list those experiences and try writing some statements, that is a verb and a task, in bullet point form for each. Look through your bullet points and see if you can add some extra details about the scope, context, or how you did this task that might increase an employer's confidence in your abilities. It could be based on quantification or scope. For example, how many clients did you work with? How many reports did you write? How many team members did you collaborate with? It could also be based on context or other important descriptors such as, was it in a fast-paced environment? Did you complete a supportive check-in daily with your team members? Did you efficiently analyze data? Finally, you can offer some extra proof that you can do a task well by turning your statements into accomplishment statements. To do this, you will add that extra information about the results. Adding the results of your experiences in your resume can increase an employer's confidence in your abilities, as it provides some proof of your knowledge and skills. The example we worked through described a paid position as a barista at a coffee shop. You can also apply the same steps to create accomplishment statements when describing academic courses or projects, a master's or PhD dissertation, a volunteer role, or a new personal project, such as a blog or website that you have created. By writing accomplishment statements, you highlight the transferable skills you offer to a future employer and increase their confidence in your abilities. The breadth and depth of your experiences are valuable to employers. So try using accomplishment statements to highlight your strengths, skills, and values for the roles you pursue. For a final activity, tell us what you have learned today. Enter the URL or scan the code to share what has changed for you as a result of this video. Learn more about the skills developed throughout your degree and identify what employers seek out in graduates on students.ubc.ca/career, click on your degree, or check out more career resources. Up next, check out the video on the hidden job market, how to craft your strategies. Thanks for watching.